Hello and welcome to our second lesson on electricity in the home. I'm your presenter Alex Nkumbi. Okay, so in our previous lesson we looked at which was electricity in the home 1. We looked at the wiring in a standard house. We looked at the 3 types of circuits. We looked at the 3-pin plug and its parts. We looked at the functions of the fuse, the function of the switch, and the function of the earthing wire. And we looked at why the switch is supposed to be along the live and why the fuse is supposed to be along the line. So, in this lesson, we look at the following. So in this lesson, we will calculate the cost of electricity, we will state ways of saving electrical energy, we will describe safety precautions when dealing with the electrical appliances. Okay, so having set our lesson outcomes, let us go straight into the first part. We want to calculate the cost of electricity. And you are familiar with what this thing does here. So this is our prepaid meter. It tells us how much energy we are remaining with. When we buy electricity from our supply company like Zesco, then we input into our meter there and it shows us how much we have bought and it will be telling us how much we are remaining with. Okay, so we are in the prepaid era like I said in the previous lesson, and not in the era where Zesco or another supply company would come to read our meters in order for them to produce a bill. Okay, so electricity as energy is sold in units, just like we buy fuel for a car, we buy charcoal. In the same manner, electricity is sold in units. Okay, so the unit for electricity which is meaningful is the kilowatt hour. So by meaningful, I mean you understand that a joule is the correct or SI unit for energy, but a joule is very small amount of energy to be used when we are talking about the energy we consume in our homes to run appliances. So that's the reason why we don't use a joule, but instead we use a meaningful amount, meaning something bigger to make sense as compared to the amount that we use in our homes. So a joule is a very small amount of energy to be used to calculate the amount of energy used in our homes or industries. And because of that, we use a kilowatt hour. So what then is a kilowatt hour? A kilowatt hour can be described as the amount of electrical energy that can be consumed by an appliance rated 1000 watts if it is switched on for an hour. So the amount of energy that a 1000 watts electrical appliance would consume in 1 hour is what we call a kilowatt hour. And take note that energy is given by power multiplied by time. I'm sure we can go to the blackboard to look at that. Okay, sorry for that work that was there. Let's look at how we can so we know that power from our previous lessons, like when we were looking at heating effect of an electric current, we calculated power. And we said power is equal to energy transformed or converted over time. So if you make energy the subject, it becomes energy is equal to power multiplied by time. Okay, so this is the unit for, this is the equation for calculating energy. However, if we calculated energy in this manner, then we know that the power here is in watts. Okay, and then we know that time is in seconds. Now a watt second is a joule, which we have already said is not a meaningful unit of energy because it is very small as compared to the amount of energy we consume in our homes. So because of that, we will divide this power in watts by 1000 so that we convert it to kilowatts, and this time it should be in hours and not in seconds or any other unit of time. Okay, so from having that idea, we can go now into looking at examples. So let's look at our first example. An electric cooker is rated 250 volts, 30 amps. Calculate the amount of energy used in kilowatt hours if it is switched on for 30 minutes. Okay, then B, what will be the total cost of energy used if the cost of electricity is 2 kwacha per unit? Okay, so we go to our board and do the calculations. So we are given an electrical cooker and we are given its ratings, that it is rated 250 volts 30 amps. So we know that energy is equal to power multiplied by time. Okay, so what we are going to do is, for power, we know that power is given by voltage multiplied by current. Okay, so from here we are going to have voltage, which is 250 volts. That's what we are told, that's what we are given, that power, that voltage is 250, it is rated 250 volts. Okay, and then the current is 30 amps. Okay, so when we multiply here, we are going to get 3 by 25 is 75. Okay, then we have two zeros, the 0 from the 30 and the 0 from the 250. So that will give us 7,500 watts. Okay, and like I said, we don't want power in watts but in kilowatts. So our energy is going to be this power, 7,500. So 7,500 in watts, but we want it in kilowatts, so we divide by 1,000. Okay, when converting from watts to kilowatts, you divide the watts by 1,000. So this is going to be multiplied by time. Now time is given in minutes. It was given as 30 minutes. Time is equal to 30 minutes. Now we want that time to be in hours instead of 30 minutes. Okay, so we are going to convert the 30 minutes to hours, and we know that 1 hour is made up of 60 minutes. So to convert minutes to hours, we divide minutes by 60. Okay, so this gives us 0.5. Okay, now this time is in hours. So we come back to our equation. So energy is equal to power, which, here we have 0.5 hours. So when we divide here, we'll get 7.5. Okay, if you divided that, then multiplied by 0. Sorry, I'm having trouble writing a 0 with this system. Okay, so 0.5. Okay, so you can see that this is in kilowatts now and this is in hours. So the answer is 0.5 multiplied by 7.5, which gives us, let's calculate and see, we are talking about 7.5 multiplied by 0.5. Okay, so our answer is 3.75. okay, so we go back to our work and okay, so we get here, when we multiply, you get 3.75. now this is in kilowatts. So that's what was desired from us. This is what the question was asking us to calculate the amount of energy used in kilowatt hours. Okay, now that we have done that, this was part A of our question. We can proceed to part B now. Okay, part B says, what will be the total cost of energy used if the cost of electricity is 2 kwacha per unit? Okay, so what will be the cost? Now we want to look at the cost. So we know the number of units used. Total cost is equal to total number of units used. So total cost will be simply, here now we are dealing with B. Okay, So total cost will simply be total number of units used, which is 3.75 units or kilowatt hours if you want, multiplied by the cost per unit of electricity, which we are told is 2 kwacha. Okay, take note of the fact that 2 kwacha, the K is supposed to be in front and not behind. So 2 by 3.75, we get, let us compute. So we have 3.75 there, we multiply it by 2 and it gives us 7.5 kwacha. Okay, so our answer is 7.5 kwacha is supposed to be in front and it's supposed to be capital. So that is our answer. 7.5 kwacha is the total cost of running an electric cooker rated 250 volts 30 amps for a period of 30 minutes when the cost of electricity is 2 kwacha per unit. Okay, let's go to example 2. Example 2 reads, what is the total cost of switching on 10 bulbs rated 100 watts for a period of 5 hours? Take the cost of electricity to be 2 kwacha per unit. Okay, so we have a situation where we have 10 bulbs. Okay, we have 10 bulbs and each bulb is rated 100 watts, and we run these bulbs for a period of 5 hours. So we want to find what will be the total cost when the cost of electricity is 2 kwacha per unit. Okay, so from the same formula, energy is equal to power multiplied by time. This time we are looking at example 2. So the power for each bulb is given, but we have 10 bulbs. So we are going to multiply that. We are going to multiply 10 by the power of each bulb, which is, we are told each bulb is 100 watts. Okay, so that we find the total cost. Excuse me for that, that's not that's 1000. So we multiply by 100. Each bulb is rated 100 watts. So when we multiply here, what we are going to get is the total power in watts, and then we are going to multiply it by time. Now time is already given in hours. It was 5 hours stated already. So this will be 1000 watts multiplied by 5 hours. However, the unit of electricity is kilowatt hour, so we should have our power in watts converted to kilowatts by dividing by 1000. Okay, should be converted to kilowatts. So 1000 into 1000 gives us 1 kilowatt hour. 1 kilowatt, and then this 1 kilowatt is multiplied by 5 hours, and then we are going to get 5 kilowatt hours. So what we have now is the total energy, the amount of units of energy used. Now we are going to find the total cost. So cost for running these bulbs for a period of 5 hours. Say if you switch them on from 18 hours up to 23, that's 5 hours. So how many hours have you used from 17 to 23? Okay, so I'm just using that as an example. It could be any period. So as long as it's 5 hours, so the total cost will be equal to the number of units used. In this case, we know we have used the 5 units. Then we multiply it by the total cost, which is 2 kwacha per unit. Please always put K in front, and it must be capital K if you are dealing with kwacha. So it will be K multiplied, that. So this gives us total cost, that's money, unit in front, so 10 kwacha. Okay, so that will be the total cost of running 10 bulbs rated 100 watts each for a period of 5 hours when the cost of electricity is 2 kwacha per unit. Okay, so we have looked at 2 examples. Now I want us to look at another example. This time we are going to look at an example from a past paper question. Okay, so this is actually pure physics, but don't be intimidated if you are doing science. The principle is the same. This question as it is can appear in science. Okay, so figure 11.1 below shows an electric kettle which is rated 2400 watts, 240 volts. So we have the arrangement there. State the power rating of the kettle in kilowatts. Okay, we know that the power rating of the kettle is given already as 2400 watts, but we want it in kilowatts. 2 marks for that. Such a simple question in a pure paper. Okay, so so all we need to do for that part is to convert the watts into kilowatts. That's all. Okay, so we have power. So our power in kilowatts will be equal to the power given in watts, which is 2400 watts. Remember, this is part 1 of that question. So this will be divided by 1000. What we do to convert watts to kilowatts is simply to divide by 1000. So this gives us 2.4, and this is kilowatts. That is all, and you get the 2 marks. If I'm marking your paper, I would give you 2 marks for that. Okay, simply give you 2 marks. Okay, let's go to the next question and see what it is talking about. The next question says, how many units of electric energy would the kettle use in 4 hours when connected to 240 mains? Okay, so period of time is given 4 hours, and we know that energy is equal to power times time, and our power, we are just from expressing it in kilowatts. So that makes the work even easier, and it is another 2 marks. So you see how easy it can be. So this is part 2 now. Okay, so part 2, we know energy is equal to power, and that power must be in kilowatts, which we already have here, multiplied by time, and time has already been given as 4 hours. So it's such a simple task to be given 2 marks. So power, you have your power already expressed in kilowatts, so 2.4 kilowatts multiplied by time, and your time in the information is already given in hours as 4 hours. So all you need to do is to multiply 2.4 by 4. Okay, so we can compute, we want to be sure. So that's 2.4. Let's remove what's there. Come on. Okay, so we are dealing with 2.4 multiplied by 4. Okay, and it gives us 9.6. Okay, so we go back to our calculations. So this, by that, we get 9.6 kilowatt hours, or if you want, you can say units, depending on what the 9.6 kilowatt hours. Okay, so the question was how many units. So you can say units or kilowatt hours, because a kilowatt hour is actually the unit of electricity. So you get 2 marks for that. Okay, so you see, we go to question 3. The cost of 1 unit of electricity is stating where. How much would it cost to use the kettle for 4 hours? See, it's unfolding very well. Okay, so you simply go to part. By the way, if you do that, I give you your 2 marks. Okay, get your 2 marks there. 1 mark for correct substitution, 1 mark for correct answer. Okay, we go to part 3 now. Okay, so part 3, what will be the cost? So we from previous examples said cost is equal to total units used, which in this case is 9.6 kilowatt hours, or you simply say units. Then you multiply this by the cost per unit, which is 30 ngwe. Okay. So what you can do here is you can express your 30 ngwe in kwacha. Okay. So this gives us 9.6 units multiplied by, okay, let me say units or kilowatt hours, like I have already started. Okay, so we have kilowatt hours, then multiplied by, we know 30 ngwe in kwacha, that is half of a kwacha, so we have K 0.5. okay, no, not 0.5, that's not correct. Okay, ngwes, when expressed in kwacha, we simply divide them by 100. So what we have is 30 divided by 100, which is 0.3. Hey, it would have been disaster. Okay, so this is equal to, so 9.6 multiplied by 0.3. So we go to our calculator. We have 9.6 already there. We simply multiply it by 0.3. Okay, and it gives us 2.88. That is kwacha. Okay, we have our answer in kwachas. So the cost is kwacha 2. What did we get? 0.88. So it simply means the total cost is 2 kwacha 88 ngwe. 2 kwacha 88 ngwe. Okay. We go to part 4, and you get 3 marks for doing that. Okay. Calculate the current flowing through the element of the kettle in use. Very simple task. We have already dealt with such issues. So I was saying, for that you get yourself 3 marks. 1, 2, 3. Okay, if you give me wrong unit for kwacha, or you put it at the back there, get a cross. But if you get everything correct, you just get your 3 marks. Okay, let's look at part 4, where we are supposed to calculate the current that is flowing through the element. Now this should not intimidate us. We know that power is given by voltage times current. We did this part when we are looking at the heating effect of an electric current. So we simply make current the subject of the formula. So current is going to be equal to power over voltage. Now take note, we should not use kilowatts here. No, we are calculating current, and it's supposed to be in amps. So our power is going to be the 2400 watts we were given in the initial stage. So 2400 watts. Then we divide this by the voltage, and we were given the voltage of the appliance, if you remember, but we can go back to check. What I remember is that it was 240 volts. It's there. Okay, it's even there in the equation, 240 volts. Okay, so we go back to our board. So we divide this by 240. Okay, so our answer is going to be, if you compute, you get 10 amps. Okay, because this is 0 and that's 0 divided 24 into 24 is 1. Okay, so our answer is 10 amps. If you do that, how many marks do you get? 2 marks. So nothing to be intimidated about, pure science. It's just like any other. All you need to do is to concentrate. Okay, now let's go to another question. Okay, probably, yeah, the last one. Suggest the size of a fuse suitable for the plug for this electric kettle. 2 marks fuse rating. Okay, 2 marks for this. If you remember what we said in our previous lesson, we said when we were covering fuse rating, we said that allow me to create space here. So we said that the fuse rating, when choosing the correct fuse, it must not be below. Oh, let me choose the correct, using red pen instead of chalk. Okay, so we are dealing with number 5 now. So the fuse rating, since the demand is 10 amps and we don't want our fuse to be blowing off regularly, so we should use something slightly higher than 10. So in this particular case, a 13 amps fuse can do. Okay, slightly higher than 10. Going to 15 will be too much, but anything by maybe 12 to 13, I'm sure even if you said 12 you can still be marked, but 13 amps is much better. Okay, and for that, just for suggesting the correct fuse to be used, you have already calculated current, and you now compare to say the fuse must be slightly higher than the demanded the current in the circuit. You get yourself 2 marks. Okay, so that was our example from a past paper question. We can now proceed with our lesson. Let's see. Okay, so at this point I want us to go to another objective or outcome. We want to look at ways of saving electrical energy in our homes and also in the industry. So how can we save energy, and why should we save energy? Okay, the reason why we should save energy is, one, it will reduce the cost. We know that energy is expensive, and we know that we need money for other things. So we will better save it, so that we don't run out of energy and we fail to to provide energy for cooking, for lighting. That will not be good. So that's the reason why we need to save. So we need to save so that we save money. The other reason why we need to save energy is because energy is in short supply. In Zambia, we are facing load shedding, and therefore we need to, it means that one part is switched off so that the other part can use energy. Now, if we are using energy carelessly, then it means that we are not helping the situation. So we need to save so that we can all use this energy. Okay, so that's the other reason. So there are 2 reasons: 1, to reduce the cost; 2, so that everyone will be able to use energy. Okay, so now how can we save electrical energy? So the first way is switching off electrical appliances not in use. For example, electric bulbs in unoccupied rooms. ZESCO says switch and save. I'm sure you are aware of that. Okay, so in a room not occupied, or in a bedroom you are sleeping and your lights are on, that is wasting electrical energy. So switch off appliances not in use, switch them off. Okay, don't play music you are not even listening to. You are busy doing other things, you just leave it playing just because you want to play. No, switch it off so that you save energy. Okay, so switch off electrical appliances not in use. For example, electric bulbs, electric heater. Okay, heat water using an electric kettle instead of an electric cooker. An electric cooker has a higher power rating, and most of the energy that will be from an electric heater will just be wasting. So instead of wasting energy, use an electric kettle, which will be more efficient in heating the water instead of an electric cooker. Use energy saving bulbs instead of incandescent bulbs. The traditional bulb here you see is the incandescent bulb. Now this bulb uses the heating effect of an electric current, so it takes a lot of energy. So you find that some people in a bedroom, 100 watts bulb switched on throughout the night, Okay, if it was switched on at 18 hours, they'll switch it off at 8 hours. Imagine how many hours you have been switching off on this 100 watts. And some people will find that they have 10 of these bulbs and they will be switched on from 18 hours up to 06 in the morning. It means we are wasting a lot of energy. Okay, so apart from switching off, you should use energy efficient bulbs, energy saver bulbs. So this bulb here is an example of energy saver bulb using the idea of fluorescence. We have other energy saver bulbs using light emitting diodes or simply LED or LED. Those are also good in terms of saving energy. Okay. Other means of saving energy include using efficient pots, like those with the pressure cooker pots are better for cooking instead of these other traditional pots. Okay, I've also heard of not using cold water when you are cooking. For example, you are cooking beans and then you want there's little water remaining in the pot, then you go and get cold water and pour into the pot. It means you have taken the temperature to a lower point, so it has to warm before it starts cooking again, so that will waste a lot of energy. So instead of that, warm water is better used for that purpose. Okay, so these are some of the ways in which we can save electrical energy, and that's one of the objectives we had. Then we go to our last part, precautions when handling electrical appliances. Okay, precautions when handling electrical appliances. I'm sure you have seen this on most of electrical appliances or installations. It means danger, electric shock, risk. Okay, so electricity use poses danger in the industries and in homes. Common dangers associated with electricity are electric shocks, electrocution, that is dying because of getting a terrible electric shock, and fire. These are some of the common dangers associated with electricity. So we want to look at what causes these dangers. Okay, so causes of accidents with electricity may include damaged insulators. Okay, the insulator is damaged, so you touch it, you get an electric shock. Overloaded cables, you get a small adapter, you want to put your electric cooker on that one. Okay, or you get a small adapter, you want to put an electric kettle or a pressing iron. So we must be careful to read the ratings of our extension cables and the electrical appliance we want to plug in. Damp conditions or wet conditions and wrong wiring. Okay, you do your wiring without involving a specialist or a qualified electrician, you are at risk. Okay, so these are some of the causes of the dangers with electricity. Okay, so we want to look at how can this be avoided. Okay, so to ensure safety with electricity, the following should be observed. The first one is cables to appliances such as dry cleaners, hair dryers, food mixers must be double insulated. When they are double insulated, this will reduce the risk of electric shock due to damaged insulators instead of you coming into contact with a live. Okay, make sure that your electrical appliances are double insulated. The cable here shows double insulation, so it's that insulator outside. Then there are individual insulators on the 3 cables, on the live, on the neutral, and on the earthing. So if the earthing if the live is damaged inside, this will protect you from coming into contact with a live. Okay, so double insulators help us to prevent an electric shock that a person is likely to face due to damaged insulators. So let us ensure our appliances are double insulated. Another thing is to avoid handling electric appliances in damp conditions and with wet hands. Okay, water reduces electrical resistance of the skin and of the floor. The skin, when it is dry under normal circumstances, has electrical resistance of about 10 kilo ohms. I'm talking about 10,000 ohms of resistance. When your skin is wet, that resistance reduces from 10,000 ohms to just 1,000 ohms. Okay, now what that means is that when you are in a damp condition, when you are wet and you come into contact with a live, what is going to happen is that instead of you getting an electric shock with only a current of 24 milliamps passing through your body, what is going to happen is that the current that will pass through your body will increase from 24 milliamps to 240 milliamps. Now that current is fatal. Remember, what kills when it comes to an electric shock is not actually the value of voltage, but instead what kills is the current, and also for how long you are exposed to that electric shock. And the other factor is which part of the body is affected. If a current of 100 milliamps passes through your heart for a short period, a period of 10 seconds, that will be fatal. A period of a minute we will be sure that you are dead. So now imagine if a current of 240 milliamps passes through your heart for a period of 2 minutes or a minute. That means the result will be electrocution. That will be fatal. Okay, so ensure that you do not handle electrical appliances with wet hands and in damp conditions. In a bathing room, you have put a socket there, so you are with your hair dryer there or with your blower, and you are busy in a wet environment. Here we have seen that even the floor itself, when it is wet, its conduction of electricity is very much improved. Okay, the resistance is reduced, so it's fatal. You shouldn't be having cables near rooms we expect to be wet. Or for example, a swimming pool, there is a cable, an electric cable lying near a swimming pool. Okay, that is fatal. Okay, so that is those are some of the things we can do to avoid accidents with electricity. Do not overload the electric cables. Always ensure you use the correct size of cable for each particular purpose. Now, cables come in sizes. In the previous lesson, when we were talking about house wiring, we talked about an electric cooker having a minimum size of cable it can use is 3.0 square millimeters. Okay, if you get 1.5 or 2.0, then you are risking, because those cables, once you overload them, it simply means that they will become hot. Okay, like we said earlier, when the current drawn is too much for the cable, it becomes hot, and in no time, when you are not paying attention, it will start burning and a fire will result. So to avoid fires, do not overload electric cables. Ensure that you don't put very big appliances on your adapter or extension cable. You put an electric cooker on an extension cable adapter. That will be dangerous. Ensure your appliances are properly wired. Okay, if you are dealing with appliances that like an electric cooker, you buy it, ensure you involve a qualified electrician if you do not have ideas, so that they do the correct wiring connecting to the power supply. And earthing is very important in appliances. I cannot overemphasize the need for an earthing, because we looked at that in our previous lesson, how it can save life. Okay, unplug electrical appliances from the mains when repairing or cleaning. Don't say, no, I can still, even if it is still connected, I've switched off. Please ensure that you unplug when repairing or when cleaning. It is one of the safety precautions. Another safety precaution is that you should not have cables lying around in a room. Okay, crossing the room, the sitting room, there's a cable lying on the floor, or cables under the carpet. That is not safe. So these measures, when put in place, can help to reduce the risk of having an electric shock. Remember this symbol and what it stands for. Okay, so I think we have come to the end of our lessons. We have covered all the outcomes we prepared. We have looked at how to calculate the cost of electricity. We have looked at ways of saving electrical energy. We have also looked at precautions when handling or dealing with electrical appliances. we have looked at what conditions we should avoid. We have looked at the common dangers and their causes, so we have looked at how we can avoid that. Now you can do this exercise. So exercise 1, this question came from a pure paper again, but it's very simple, you can easily manage it. I will read it for you. A secretary in a manager's office uses the following appliance with respective power ratings. 1, electric kettle rated 1200 watts. 2, a printer rated 600 watts. 3, a computer rated 100 watts. Given that the cost of electricity is 0.8 or simply 8 tengwe or 0.8 kwacha per kilowatt hour, which is a unit of electricity, calculate the cost of operating all the 3 appliances at once for 12 hours. So is it going to be A, 5.6 kwacha? Is it going to be 8 kwacha? Is it going to be C, 16.3 kwacha? Is it going to be D, which is 18.24 kwacha? So it is your duty to calculate the cost here like we did. Okay. Another question. This is from section B of a pure paper. Again, please don't be intimidated because I chose pure questions here. These are just the same as those that can appear in a science paper. I'm sure you have seen how simple they are, as long as you have understood the concepts. Okay, it was actually part B. And this question is part B of the question that we did in our previous lesson, where we were looking at the, where we dealt with the wiring. We looked at the 3-pin plug. Okay, now that was part A. Now part B is here. An electric stove has 2 plates, each with a rating of 240 volts, 3000 watts. Okay. One plate is switched on for 5 hours. For the same period of time, a heater rated 200, remember from the 2 plates here, as 2 plates, only one was switched on for 5 hours, okay, and each has a rating of 240 watts, 3000 watts. Then for the same period of time, which is a period of 5 hours, a heater rated 230 volts, 2300 watts, and a geyser with an element rated 240 volts, 2500 watts are switched on. So 1, calculate the electrical energy in kilowatt hours used by the stove, heater, and the geyser in the 5 hours. So you calculate the total energy used. So you calculate the energy used by each in kilowatts, and then you add. 2, if a kilowatt hour of electricity, which is a unit, costs 50 ngwe, what is the cost of using the stove, heater, and geyser for 5 hours? So you will do that because we have covered that in our lesson. What advice would you give regarding the switching on of many electrical appliances at the same time? So after you have answered your question and looked at the cost, then what advice would you give regarding switching on of many electrical appliances at the same time? Okay, so that is your exercise. Please go through it. It is very important for you. Then finally, I want to thank you so much for watching up to the end. I also want to encourage you to continue watching our lessons on NTC, and you can access NTC by following, that is on Facebook, by following this link here. Okay, or simply you search on Facebook NTC exam coaching. You can still access it, like our page and follow it, and you'll be able to receive all the latest video lessons. Or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel NTC Physics by following this link. Please, you have to make sure that you copy the link as it is, you don't leave any part. Okay, and share our page and our videos with everyone who needs them. Remember, sharing is caring. Let us not be selfish. Share so that everyone is not left behind. And I want to also encourage you to stay safe, observe personal hygiene, stay at home so that we can fight this terrible disease of COVID-19. Thank you so much. Hope to see you in our next lesson.